They tried to imprison him. They cheated and stole his election. They tried to assassinate him twice, but they failed. They could not stop you. They could not stop we, the people, from electing Donald J. Trump as the 47th president of the United States. My heart is singing. My heart is singing to watch this inauguration take place. Is not only historic, it's the first time in over 100 years that a president has served in a non-consecutive term. But I got to tell you, for a couple of months over the summer, I doubted whether God was going to have mercy on our nation. I wondered if God was done with our nation. And today, I know that he's not. Donald Trump says, "We will not forget our God." An assassin's bullet ripped through my ear. But I felt then and now that my life was saved for a reason. I was saved by God to make America great again. My friends, I feel so much hope I could cry today. You should have seen me jumping up and down watching the inauguration, watching the speech, watching the swearing in of Donald J. Trump as president of the United States. J.D. Vance, the first millennial vice president of the United States, their precious, adorable, beautiful families surrounding them, an indictment of all the corruption, all the evil, all the lawfare, all the criminals that stood on that stage with them. May God bless America. Our work has only just begun. Pastor Lorenzo Sewell, the black pastor from Detroit, who gave part of the benediction, he called Trump the millimeter miracle. The millimeter miracle. You saw the official presidential portrait of Donald J. Trump that was released a couple days ago. And if you zoom up on his ear in that picture, you can see, compared to his ear in his first presidential picture from 2016, you can see the additional scar tissue on that ear where the assassin's bullet ripped through his ear. A millimeter miracle. Thanks to you, our country has hope. Thanks to you, our country is embarking on a new golden era. Thanks to you, all hope is not lost. The president of the United States right now is Donald J. Trump. We'll get to Joe Biden in a second. We'll get to why we should not whitewash the history of this corrupt, evil man who, in the last moments of his presidency, not only pardoned Anthony Fauci, who has committed heinous crimes against humanity, not only pardoned Mark Milley, who colluded with the Chinese communists behind Trump's back, but pardoned his entire family. The Biden criminal cartel is off the hook. The last act that Joe Biden took officially as president of the United States. We'll talk about all that during the show today. We have a lot to talk about. President Trump, as we speak, is signing executive orders. He's already gotten rid of the Border Patrol One app, the app that the Biden administration used to get people illegally into the United States. That's gone. President Trump's signing in the Capitol right now. He's then going to take a break before he heads to Capital One Arena. You probably saw the picture over in Capital One Arena. Not only are there Trump supporters galore over there, you guys are warming my heart, those of you who are there, but you saw a presidential desk and a chair and a microphone set up hours ahead of President Trump's arrival on that stage, signaling to us that he is going to continue to sign these day one executive orders, which again, we're going to cover all of the executive orders that are expected to be signed today by President Trump. Jason says, hello from South Africa. Hello, Jason. I'm glad you're watching from abroad. Patricia said, why didn't he place his hand on the Bible? You know, a lot of you have asked me that question. It's because Chief Justice John Roberts got ahead of himself before the Trump family had even surrounded Trump, before every ceremonial aspect had been attended to. Chief Justice John Roberts began the oath of office. So not on Trump. That's all on Chief Justice John Roberts. Obviously has nothing to do with the legitimacy of that oath of office that President Trump took. Joey says, God bless America. Bless Donald J. Trump. Don't you feel it? Don't you feel today that God has looked at our nation and instead of enacting the justice which we so richly deserve, he has looked at our nation and said, I'm extending my mercy on you if you seek the truth, if you seek justice, if you seek me. And now it's up to us. Now it's up to us. Matthew says, I love you, Liz. President Trump is back. America is back. This is what we're all feeling. You feel it. I feel it. Daniel says, subpoena everyone. That's the thing. Again, we're going to talk about the Biden pardons in a minute, but just because Joe Biden issued a pardon to Fauci, for example, does not mean that Dr. Fauci cannot be subpoenaed. It doesn't mean that he can't be subpoenaed by a court. It doesn't mean he cannot be subpoenaed by Congress. In fact, what it means is that he is no longer entitled to a Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination because he cannot face that penalty. He is now required, if he is subpoenaed, to testify to all the information that he knows, every last bit of it. And if he lies, if he perjures himself, he can be held in contempt of Congress or in contempt of court, at which moment he should be thrown in jail where he belongs. We'll get to Fauci and all the crimes he committed and what Republican attorneys general at the state level can and should still do to hold Dr. Fauci accountable. All of that and more today on the Liz Wheeler Show. As you can tell, I feel the energy. I feel the hope. I feel what you are feeling. Mike says, God is great. God is so good. And yes, we're bringing religion into it because how can you look on this nation? How can you look on this election? How can you look at the forces that have tried to take us down from abroad and from within and not recognize that this is a battle, not just of left versus right, but of good versus evil, of God against those who revile God. And in this moment, good has triumphed. God has triumphed. He has given us another chance. So yeah, we're going to bring religion into it. If you're not religious, that's okay. Maybe now is the time to say, well, should I be religious? You know, I can never resist that subtle nudge to you to crack open your Bible, follow your God. But today we're also going to be talking about politics. The head of the Transportation Security Administration has been fired. This is breaking news by the Trump administration, according to CNN. So, as you know, throughout this hour, there's going to be a lot of breaking news updates, a lot of executive orders, a lot of new things that are happening. We just before we went on air, we watched former President Joe Biden and former Lady McBiden. Lady McBiden is the nickname coined by Alexandra Pelosi, the daughter of Nancy Pelosi. That's what she called Jill Biden. And a more apropos nickname we have not heard since, President Trump coined Crooked Hillary. They departed in what wasn't Marine One any longer because Donald J. Trump is the president of the United States. We're going to talk about the presidential pardons, the Biden pardons of Fauci and his family. Shortly, we'll get to that. But speaking of Fauci, and speaking of the fact that Fauci deliberately suppressed scientific evidence regarding ivermectin and ivermectin's efficacy against COVID-19 so that Fauci's vaccine, his mRNA COVID jab, could get emergency use authorization, which it wouldn't have been able to get had he admitted the efficacy of ivermectin. Did you guys see that video last week of Mel Gibson on Joe Rogan talking about ivermectin? Mel Gibson said he had several friends who were diagnosed with serious cancer, and they took a combination of drugs, including ivermectin, and are now cancer-free. They are now cancer-free. My message to you, do not wait, because emergencies don't wait. Whether it's the wildfires in California, the hurricanes in the Southeast, or another global health crisis, having the right resources matters. That's why All Family Pharmacy offers over 200 different medications and bundled emergency packages to ensure that you are ready for anything and everything and not at the mercy of criminals like Anthony Fauci. At the heart of this effort is the Make America Healthy Again movement, a call to take control of your health and prepare for the unexpected. And if you find yourself in a pinch, well, All Family Pharmacy has you covered with overnight delivery. That is care and convenience when you need it most. So go check out allfamilypharma.com/Liz. And because you are part of this movement, you're the backbone of this movement, use code Liz10 at checkout for an exclusive discount. Again, that's allfamilypharma.com/Liz, code Liz10. Don't wait for the next crisis to strike. Be proactive, be prepared, and join me in making America healthy again. Your health is your responsibility, not Anthony Fauci's. Let All Family Pharmacy help you take charge of it today. That's allfamilypharma.com/Liz. Okay, let's get to Anthony Fauci and the Biden pardons. Of all the actions to take when you're leaving office, of all the legacy moments, Joe Biden chooses to pardon Anthony Fauci, and he chooses to pardon General Mark Milley. And then at the very last minute, I don't even know, I haven't gotten word yet of whether President Trump was even aware that Joe Biden pardoned 5 of his family members, his 5 siblings, or 5 of his siblings. I don't even know if Trump was aware of this as he was in the Capitol Rotunda making his way out to take his oath of office. Biden announced this within 30 minutes of leaving the presidency, of all the corrupt, evil, criminal men. There's a human nature inclination of many of us to whitewash someone's history. You know, when President Carter died, we were like, oh, was he a Christian man? May he rest in peace. And it's fine to pray for the repose of someone's soul, especially someone who has done the things that Jimmy Carter had done. Same with Joe Biden. Oh, he was abused by Jill Biden, blah, blah, blah. Now he can go off in the sunset, retirement. No. First of all, when you marry a witch, be assured you will be boiled in oil. So Joe Biden's abuse was the culmination of his own choices. Joe Biden's evil corruption is his legacy. This was not something that was done just by the puppeteers controlling Trump. This was something that had become the hallmark of everything Joe Biden has ever touched. And today was no different. To issue these pardons of Dr. Fauci, these should not be construed as any guilt, as any presumption of guilt, the left tells us. This is just something that Joe Biden is doing to prevent these people from being targeted by the incoming Trump administration. No. Fauci is a criminal. Let's talk about exactly what Dr. Fauci has done. Let's talk about exactly what Dr. Fauci has done. I wrote a list of these earlier, and this is not even a complete list. Not even a complete list of what Dr. Anthony Fauci has done. Let me find this. I posted this on X. Some of you have probably seen this already, and you can add your own. You can add your own to the list. Dr. Fauci gave gain of function research funding to Eco Health Alliance. That's Peter Daszak's crew. Eco Health Alliance then subcontracted your money to the Wuhan Institute of Virology, where the COVID-19 virus was unleashed on the world, on you and your family. And then in front of the United States Congress and to your face, Dr. Fauci lied about it. You'll notice, by the way, that Joe Biden's pardon extends all the way back to 2014. What is significant about the date 2014? The significance of the date 2014 is that's when the gain of function prohibition went into effect in the United States. Joe Biden knows, as well as you know, that Anthony Fauci violated that prohibition from the moment that it went into effect. Then Fauci pushed remdesivir on you and your elderly parents. Remdesivir, which is deadly when given to severely ill patients. And Fauci knew this because remdesivir is not a new drug. It was Fauci's pet drug that he was desperate to apply to something. Why? For profit. Fauci lied about hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin being effective against the COVID-19 virus, especially when used immediately after the onset of the virus. Why did he lie? Because if Fauci had admitted the efficacy of these two drugs, he would not have been able to obtain emergency use authorization for his experimental mRNA jab. Fauci knew masks were ineffective. He sent an email to a woman who asked him whether she should mask at the beginning of the pandemic. And he said, no, we know that doesn't work against respiratory illnesses. But then he lied to us and pushed politicians to forcibly mask us, to mandate masks on us and our children. Fauci knew that his mRNA jab, his pet vaccine, was dangerous. He knew it was ineffective. He knew it did nothing of what he claimed it did. He told us we wouldn't get COVID if we took the vaccine, that we wouldn't transmit COVID if we took that vaccine. He lied to us. You still got sick if you took it. You still transmitted it if you took the vaccine. But Fauci lied to profit his buddies, and he forced it on us. Fauci is not innocent. Fauci is a criminal of the highest degree. He committed heinous crimes against humanity, and now he's got a security detail paid for by you and your taxpayer dollars. Biden pardoned Fauci because Fauci is a criminal. But Biden's pardon doesn't stop states from charging Anthony Fauci. Republican attorneys general in red states bring charges against Dr. Fauci. If you care about us, otherwise you're no better than Biden brushing Fauci's deadly crimes under the rug. Joe Biden's legacy is one of the most despicable stains on the history of the United States. From the beginning, this man who pretended he was a family man, he pretended he was a loving father to a son that was struggling with addiction. He always talked about his son who had died from brain cancer. Joe Biden is the worst kind of father, the worst kind of brother who used his family members to enrich himself. He abused his family members. And then at the last minute, he knew it and everybody knew it, and he extended a pardon. We were lectured by Amy Klobuchar at the beginning of that inaugural ceremony, the worst part of it, by the way, about democracy. They do not care about democracy. They do not care about democracy. Or else they would never have tolerated Joe Biden as president. That is Joe Biden's legacy. And that is how he should be remembered. Joe Biden. It's funny that the nickname Lady McBiden comes from Pelosi's daughter. That wasn't even a Republican nickname. There's a reason that Kamala Harris and Jill Biden don't even look at each other. They hate each other. Because in a competition of corruption, who wins? Who wins? All right. Let's turn to the Capital One Arena here for a second. The Capital One Arena is awaiting President Trump's arrival. People have been packing in the seats since early this morning. People in red, white, and blue, Make America Great Again gear. People are waiting for the executive orders. What executive orders are going to be signed today by President Trump? He's going to hit the ground running. All right, this is for immediate release. President Trump's first priorities today. President Trump, this is from the White House. President Trump will take bold action to secure our border and protect American communities. This includes ending Biden's catch and release policies, reinstating Remain in Mexico, building the wall, ending asylum for illegal border crossers, cracking down on criminal sanctuaries, and enhancing vetting and screening of aliens. President Trump's deportation operation will address the record border crossings of criminal aliens under the prior administration. By the way, that is starting tomorrow. We're going to get to that in a moment. The president is suspending refugee resettlement after communities were forced to house large and unsustainable populations of migrants, straining community safety and resources. The armed forces, including the National Guard, will engage in border security, which is national security, and will be deployed to the border to assist existing law enforcement personnel. President Trump will begin the process of designating cartels, including the dangerous cartels as foreign terrorist organizations, and use the Alien Enemies Act to remove them. The Department of Justice will seek the death penalty as the appropriate punishment for heinous crimes against humanity, including those who kill law enforcement officers and illegal migrants who maim and murder Americans. The president will unleash American energy by ending Biden's policies of climate extremism, streamlining, permitting, and reviewing for rescission all regulations that impose undue burdens on energy production and use, including mining and processing of non-fuel minerals. President Trump's energy actions empower consumer choice in vehicles, showerheads, toilets, washing machines, light bulbs, and dishwashers. How excited are you, by the way, about getting your incandescent light bulbs back? Cannot wait. And a washing machine that actually cleans your clothes because it uses water. President Trump will declare an emergency, an energy emergency, and use all necessary resources to build critical infrastructure. President Trump's energy policies will end leasing to massive wind farms that degrade our natural landscapes and fail to serve American energy consumers. President Trump will withdraw from the Paris Climate Accord. All agencies will take emergency measures to reduce the cost of living. President Trump will announce the America First trade policy. America will no longer be beholden to foreign organizations for a national tax policy, which punishes American businesses. This is all happening today. Within a matter of moments, this is happening today. Matthew says, America is back. Johnny on the spot says, can we take back the rainbow? I think we kind of did, right? President Trump said in his inaugural address, the entire world watching, there are two genders only, male and female, period. If you've seen the text of that executive order, President Trump is set to issue on radical gender ideology, the transgender ideology, queer theory, whatever you want to call it. If you've seen that executive order, you know that we pretty much are taking back the rainbow. We pretty much are. Guys, make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. On YouTube, on X, if you're watching live on Facebook, I know we're live all over the place right now. Thomas said he's also getting rid of the electric vehicle mandate at the federal level. Sadly, 13 states are still going to have the electric vehicle mandate in place. Yes, they are. But once you have that federal policy, that's what's going to be king. All right. Yes. Someone's asking in the chat. Daniel's asking in the chat about TikTok. Yeah, we'll talk about TikTok a little bit later in the show because it's a very important topic. All right. Also, a couple of videos from the inauguration, which we have to watch. We just have so much to get to today. It's hard to even know which thing to get to next. But Biden is gone. Let's just stop, take a moment, focus on that for a second, drop prayer hands in the chat. Biden is gone. But you know, the swamp creatures that he left behind are still plotting and scheming new ways to stop Trump. There's a new poll we're going to talk about in a few minutes. 42% of federal employees, that is, our employees of the executive agencies, are planning to resist the Trump administration. 42%, 4 out of 10. Well, they, like the globalists, want to resist Trump because they want to control us. They want to control you. Many of them actually want a digital dollar. The United Nations is actively planning how to take control of your money so that they can control you. We're going to cover some of that tomorrow. We're going to talk about the crypto coins that Trump has been releasing. But first, let me tell you how I am planning for my future. My husband and I just called American Heart for Gold to protect our wealth. They are the only precious metal dealer that I trust. They are a fabulous company. Besides knowing what they know financially, they also support content like this that's committed to bringing you the truth. They're one of us. Tell them I sent you. They'll give you up to $15,000 of free silver on your first order. Call them now. You can click the link in the description, or you can call 866 996 5172. That's 866 996 5172. Or text Liz to 998899. Again, the phone number is 866 996 5172. Or text Liz to 998899. I think President Trump heading over to the Capital One Arena, this is just a game changer when it comes to presidential politics. It is political theater, but of the grandest kind. Who else would think of signing executive orders in an auditorium full of cheering fans who are going to react to each executive order as he signs it? This is actually, and we'll get to TikTok a little bit later, but this is why President Trump, one of the reasons why President Trump wants TikTok to be live. Because he knows that these moments, when he does this publicly, he does it in front of fans, the news media is not only forced to cover it, it becomes, you're the media, as Elon Musk says. You film this. You put it on TikTok. The Trump team puts it on TikTok. You share it. This becomes something that everyone sees. He has TikTokers who are leftists thanking him for saving TikTok as he plays the Chinese. We'll get into all of that. But I want to talk about the mass deportations that are coming tomorrow. President Trump has a huge mandate on immigration, a huge mandate, meaning the vast majority of the American people want criminal aliens to be deported from this country. This crosses party lines. It's not just Republicans. It is also Democrats. So when the media claims that this is inhumane, the media claims that this is far-right extremists, xenophobes, understand that that's not true. Understand that most people in this country, the majority of people in this country, want these deportations to happen. You'll even hear, and I got into it with Father James Martin on X yesterday. Father James Martin is a Catholic priest, but he's notorious for standing up, or not standing up. He's notorious for supporting the LGBTQ agenda, which is antithetical to Christian doctrine, biblical doctrine, Catholic doctrine. God, of course, loves everyone, and it is not a sin to have same-sex attraction, but he established marriage as between one man and one woman. He established sex as within the context of holy matrimony. Therefore, the LGBTQ agenda, which redefines male and woman and sex and marriage and is a contradiction of all Christian doctrine, especially Catholic doctrine. That's what Father James Martin has been an activist for the past decade, ever since I've started hearing him on these topics. And likewise, he has been decrying President Trump's mass deportation. I'm going to bring this up on the screen here. Father Martin posted and said, "You shall not oppose a resident alien. You know the heart of an alien, for you were aliens in the land of Egypt." This is from Exodus 23:19. From Matthew 25:43, Father Martin says, "I was a stranger and you did not welcome me." This is called proof texting. What Father James Martin is doing is he is twisting individual verses in the Bible to try to bolster his own political agenda. And it is not only wrong, it leads believers astray. It's a travesty here what Father Martin is doing. And what I said in response to him is I said, the Catechism of the Catholic Church teaches that nations have a right to secure their borders and a right to self-definition. This is in the Catechism of the Catholic Church, that nations have a right to enforce their laws, including their immigration laws. Our duty to care which is what the Catechism of the Catholic Church teaches us, what the Bible calls us to, our duty to care is to those fleeing imminent danger. And that duty to care in no way obliges us to embrace a leftist open borders policy. And anyone, including Father Martin, who insinuates that holding accountable aliens who have violated our laws is somehow contradicting the gospel is himself twisting the gospel into something it's not, for his own political gain, for his own political weapon even. And then, of course, Father Martin's response to that was to ignore every point that I made and to just quote different portions of the Bible to try to bolster his open borders agenda. But make no mistake, if you're Christian, if you're looking at immigration through a Christian worldview, you are in no way obligated to embrace a dangerous open borders policy. In fact, quite the opposite. It is your Christian duty to protect your family, to protect your neighbors, to protect your community, and yes, to tend to the poor and needy, the oppressed and persecuted. And that's not what the vast majority of illegal aliens are, as you well know. As you well know. All right, a couple questions that we've gotten in the chat that I want to address. Why was the inauguration moved inside? It wasn't that cold outside. Well, I think we all know why. The National Mall was closed when President Trump and First Lady Melania Trump arrived yesterday in Washington, D.C. They arrived with a fleet of SUVs, on top of which was anti-drone technology. This is a clear signal to us, what we already know, that there were security threats, likely credible security threats, and of course there were. This is a man who has been the target of assassination attempts twice in the past 6 months. There are Iranian sniper teams who are out to assassinate President Donald Trump because President Trump eliminated General Qasem Soleimani during his first term as president. President Trump owes our enemies no acknowledgement that they have issued these threats, but for his own safety and the safety of his loved ones, the safety of J.D. Vance and his family and all of the dignitaries gathered, of course they were forced to move it inside. And the leftists that are trying to make it seem like President Trump just couldn't stand the cold, they're the ones who didn't care at all, in fact, cheered or had sympathies towards the would-be assassins who attempted to murder the president of the United States. Okay, so let's talk about the challenges that Trump faces. It's actually a little bit difficult to talk about these challenges today because I feel like today is such a hopeful day. It's such a celebratory day. It's such a victorious day. But President Trump still faces an uphill battle as he is now the president of the United States. He faces the deep state is essentially three parts. It's the intelligence community, the unelected bureaucrats, and the administrative state who wield government rules rather than legislation to slow things down to harm his agenda. And then the DC establishment, which includes Republicans, the uniparty, the lobbyists, the mainstream media. Donald Trump is still up against all of these different people whose life goal is to thwart them. There was a recent poll that showed that 42% of government managers, that means federal government employees who make $70,000 a year or more, 42% say that they plan to resist the incoming Trump administration. So let me rephrase what this means. President Trump, as president, is the chief executive of the United States. He oversees the executive branch of the federal government, which means he is the boss of every employee who works in the executive branch, the direct boss. He tells them what to do. They are required to mind him. And if they don't, he can certainly fire them. They are there to serve one purpose. They are there to execute the agenda of the chief executive of the United States, their boss, the president of the United States. And yet 4 out of 10 say that they plan to resist. They plan to put roadblocks in the way of President Trump. They plan to try to put a stick in the bicycle wheel of the Trump administration. They plan to slap you in the face after you voted to put President Trump in office. This is a significant threat, a threat that Elon Musk, I hope, is aware of, a threat that Doge should immediately address. Any government manager who has shown any indication that they're going to resist the incoming Trump administration should be fired like that. Like that. The GOP establishment, this includes Speaker Mike Johnson. Speaker Mike Johnson might pretend to be part of Trump's inner circle, but he's not. He's not. President Trump might use him as effectively as he can, but Speaker Mike Johnson is not on President Trump's side, and neither are many Republicans who are elected in the United States Congress. That's why it's so incumbent on you to use your voice to hold accountable even those in Trump's inner circle who may not be fully bought into the America First agenda. We're going to talk about this more deeply on the show tomorrow because there is a woman who is now the number 2 at the Department of Education who is intensely opposed to the agenda that we elected President Trump to enact at the Department of Education. This is Penny Schwinn. We're going to talk about how President Trump picks these people, these appointees to high-ranking positions based on the advice of his inner circle. He doesn't know each and every one of them individually. And so it's incumbent on us to help him, to make sure that his administration is not sabotaged from within by giving him the information, to help him make informed decisions and to help him identify those who are on the inside, who are essentially domestic enemies to his agenda. But of course, Trump's speech today showed that this term is going to hit the ground running. Great signs from today's address. Great signs. But again, going back to the intelligence community for a minute, the Department of Justice under Joe Biden, we talked a little bit last week about how the Biden administration was burrowing political appointees. They were just demoting political appointees 2 or 3 steps so that they became so-called civil servants. Civil servants, the left claims the president can't fire. President Trump, of course, argues otherwise, and President Trump is correct. But these political appointees at the Department of Justice will be trying to thwart the Trump agenda. And there was a new report from the former cellmate of Jeffrey Epstein. This is a man, he's a former cop who was serving time for murder. He was the bunkmate of Jeffrey Epstein in federal prison just weeks before Jeffrey Epstein's death. He is now publicly stating that Jeffrey Epstein told him that the Department of Justice offered Epstein a plea deal. You can plead guilty to something, spend just a couple years in a camp, which is a very light sort of pseudo prison sentence, if the Department of Justice said if Epstein gave them dirt on Trump. The Department of Justice under Joe Biden offered Epstein a sweetheart deal if he would give them dirt on Trump. And evidently, he didn't do it. Why? Perhaps he doesn't have dirt on Trump. This former bunkmate of Jeffrey Epstein didn't say if Epstein said why he didn't do it. He just blew the whistle. And this, by the way, might be worth remembering. This was under Donald Trump's Department of Justice. Biden hadn't even taken office. This shows the power and the corruption of these deep state swamp creatures who will stop at nothing to thwart Trump's agenda. In fact, Revolver News was reported on the quademic threat that the left is essentially waging over our heads. They're saying that instead of just the COVID pandemic, now we have all these viruses around us. We have a bird flu, we have COVID, we have the flu, we have RSV, and it's all coming down on us right now. Now, why do they do this? Why are they reporting it? Why did they name it the quademic? Well, because they want us to fear. They want us to fear so much that we surrender our freedoms to them like we did during COVID. Well, not again. Not anymore. Never again will we do that. But all of this to say, I'm not trying to be negative here. I feel this immense hope and this joy, this victory today, as I know you do as well. But we have to remain vigilant because our fight has only just begun. The victory on November 5th and the inauguration on January 20th, it's like getting married. Getting your wedding day is not the culmination of your relationship. It is the beginning of the adventure. As is today. We're going to talk about TikTok. We're going to talk about Mark Milley, by the way. What Mark Milley did is undoubtedly a crime. We're going to get into that in just a minute. But speaking of the public health establishment and this bogus quademic, will you maha with me and buy some masa? Did you guys see the suit that RFK Jr. was wearing last night at the inaugural ball? He is styling like a Hollywood stylist, put him into those threads. And he is undoubtedly going to be confirmed into HHS, although the big pharma lobbyists, you should hear the buzz in Washington, D.C. They are freaking out. Brings joy to my heart to see big pharma lobbyists freaking out. Joy to my heart. I hope RFK Jr. goes all the way and brings back tallow fries at McDonald's. We'll see how long it takes him to do that. But until he does, I'd like to introduce you a new sponsor of my show, Masa Chips. Masa Chips, you know I'm a chip addict, right? I've shared this with you. My name is Liz Wheeler, and I am a chip addict. Masa chips are free of seed oils, so guilt-free munching. Masa has only 3 ingredients: organic nixtamalized corn, grass-fed and finished beef tallow, and Redmond's sea salt. Sounds healthy to me. Basically a salad. No seed oils, no pesticides, no fake ingredients, no toxins. All chips and fries, as you might know, used to be cooked in tallow until the 80s and 90s when corporations, at the behest of lobbyists, switched to seed oils to save costs. And then, of course, these corporations funded studies claiming, oh, this is healthy for you. Seed oils are not healthy for you. Tallow tastes incredible. My husband loves these chips. My sister ate my entire shelf full of chips while she was staying at my house the other day when I was out of town. So let's maha together. Go buy some masa. I encourage you to check out Masa Chips at masachips.com. Use my promo code Liz Wheeler for a discount. That's masachips.com, promo code Liz Wheeler. Offer good on first-time orders only. Christian Gomez on YouTube live chat says, we are a constitutional republic. Indeed we are, Christian. You might have noticed that the Democrats during the inaugural event were talking about our democracy a lot. We are not a democracy. We are a constitutional republic. We are a constitutional republic. NW46784 says, I've been hearing a lot about these chips. Well, go buy some. Tell me what you think about them. I'm both personally and professionally biased towards them. My sister says the spicy ones are the best. She was actually sick, and those were the only ones she could taste. So she was like, maybe this is a cure for COVID. These are the only ones I can taste. She was like, could you have your sponsor send me some more of the spicy ones? So go see. Johnny on the spot says Melania looked like a spy. No, she didn't. I will defend Melania's fashion until my dying day. She looked beautiful, glamorous, classy. She looked, to say that style is back in the White House would be the understatement of the year. Did you guys see Usha Vance's inaugural ball gown last night? Oh my word, was she beautiful. And even JD Vance. JD Vance grew up about 20 minutes from where I grew up. A hillbilly, if there ever was one, by his, of course, you've read Hillbilly Elegy, his book. Even his suits and his fashion look very sharp, very dapper. In fact, JD Vance's tailor, did you guys see that go viral on X? Romaldo, a 90-year-old tailor straight off the boat from Italy. We've been friends. My family has been friends with his family for basically my entire life. His daughter is friends with my mom, and they're a lovely, devoutly Catholic family. I was delighted to see the piece. The local news did a piece on JD Vance's tailor, and if you haven't seen it, go on X. It's all over. It's great.
Doesn't even need
here it is.
Just to thread a needle.
As an immigrant, did you ever dream you'd be dressing and tailoring for a vice president?
Are you kidding me? Hillbilly from Italy with a smaller town for maybe 15,000 people? No, I wouldn't. Never dream of that.
90-year-old
90-year-old Romaldo. He said he's a hillbilly from Italy, dressing a hillbilly from Ohio. And you got to love that. You got to love that. All of the fashion. I enjoy watching the fashion, which we were not given with a Jill Biden, Kamala Harris combination as First Lady and Vice President of the United States. I think it's safe to say that we're back when it comes to the fashion here. Melania Trump looked just delightful. All right, Joseph asks, how do you pardon someone for something they were never convicted of? Well, you say, I'm going to bypass the American people and our justice system and our rule of law. And I'm going to prove to you that when I say no one is above the law, I don't mean my family and the criminals who I have directed for my whole life to profit myself. Everyone else might not be above the law, but I am. That's how you issue a pardon that's how you pardon someone for something they were never convicted of. Technically, actually, you could still convict someone of a crime, even if they were pardoned for it. They would not suffer the penalty for it. But let's talk about Mark Milley for a second. General Mark Milley might be the underreported pardon here in this whole lot. We talked about Fauci. We talked about the Biden family criminal cartel. But Mark Milley, you remember what Mark Milley did? Mark Milley went behind the back of President Trump during Trump's first term and colluded with the Chinese communists, saying that when Trump was publicly engaging in statecraft, he was talking about penalties that the Chinese communists were going to suffer if they took certain actions. And Mark Milley went behind the president's back, talked to the Chinese communists, and said, if President Trump ever tells me to do that, I will let you know before he does that. That is treason. Treason. And Joe Biden knows this, which is why Joe Biden issued this pardon of Mark Milley. There are two things Republicans need to remember here. First of all, Congress can still subpoena these people. In fact, Congress may get more information from Fauci or Hunter Biden or Joe Biden's brother or Mark Milley than they could if they were not pardoned, because now they do not have the shield of the Fifth Amendment. They cannot refuse to speak. They cannot cite protection against self-incrimination. They have to say everything they know. Otherwise, they can be held in contempt of court or contempt of Congress or convicted of perjury. Because the pardon does not extend from this moment forward. It extends from this moment backwards. If Congress were based, if they actually wanted to seek the truth, this is what they would do. They would investigate January 6th. They would investigate Fauci. They would investigate the deep state that has tried to take Trump out. They would expose it, and they would hold these people accountable. The other thing that Republicans shouldn't forget is that state attorneys general can still do something about it. If you're pardoned on the federal level, that does not equal a pardon at the state level. So state attorneys general can still bring charges against Fauci, against Mark Milley, against members of Biden's family, and they should. The only way to stop lawfare against people like President Trump is for Republicans to actually hold leftists accountable for the crimes that they commit. This is what Chip Roy said about these pardons. The implication is that they needed the pardons, so let's call them all before Congress and demand the truth. If they refuse or lie, let's test the constitutional reach of these pardons with regard to their future actions. That is what I like to see. Thank you, Congressman Chip Roy. Thank you, Congressman Chip Roy. But will we actually see it? It depends. It depends on just how based this U.S. Congress actually is. NW says, can you pardon treason? The president of the United States has the unilateral authority to issue any pardon that he so chooses. So yes, you could. You can apparently preemptively issue such a pardon too. Let's talk about TikTok for a second. TikTok. The owner of TikTok's parent company, ByteDance, attended the inauguration of President Donald J. Trump, which I thought was interesting for a couple of reasons. There's this weird divide among conservatives right now about whether TikTok should be banned or shouldn't be banned. Those who think it should not be banned are citing free speech issues. I know Senator Rand Paul says that if you're going to be a free speech absolutist, then you have to support TikTok. And those of us, including me, on the other side of this issue say, well, it's not about free speech. And let me explain why to you. First of all, let me make my position very clear. It almost sounds weird to say it, but yes, of course, we should ban TikTok as long as TikTok is owned by ByteDance, which is a company that is controlled by the Chinese Communist Party. Of course we should. This is a no-brainer. This is a big duh. And it's actually not even a question right now because there's a law that already went into effect. It was passed unilaterally in the United States government that banned TikTok if it was owned and controlled by a company that was owned and controlled by the Chinese Communist Party. So that law went into effect. There's an appeal to the Supreme Court, but the law went into effect. It's not a matter of should this be done, should this not be done. It has been done. It has been done, and it should be done because it is a threat to our national security. And what I mean when I say a threat to our national security, the Chinese Communist Party seeks to subvert the dominance, the international dominance, the hegemony of the United States of America. And they don't want to do this militarily. They don't want to go to war with our military. They want to destroy us from within. So how are they doing that? They're doing that by trying to corrupt the minds of our youth. They're trying to change the way that young people in our country think. They're trying to turn them against America. And they're doing this through TikTok. TikTok, as an app, tracks your keystrokes. They know exactly how long you linger on certain pieces of content, what interests you, whether it is something wholesome or whether it's something scandalous. And so they tailor your feed to give you dopamine hits every so often to keep you scrolling through your For You page. And the majority of your For You page will be stuff that you are interested in. Maybe it's legitimate Catholic content or Trump inaugural content or recipes or workout videos, whatever it might be. Practical jokes, bros are playing on each other, football highlights. Much of it is harmless, except for it probably destroys your attention span because it's about 5 seconds long. But then what TikTok does is they use all of your data that they've collected on you to build this profile of who you are, what you're interested in, and this is most important, what you might be vulnerable to information-wise. So say you have a young woman who's 16 years old, who's been sexually abused in her past. And TikTok tracks this because her eyes lingered on a video of a therapist talking about how to process sexual abuse. And they build this profile on this girl. And then they begin to feed her drip by drip by drip content that makes her feel like to escape this trauma is possible if she rejects her gender, that she might feel whole and healed if she says that she's a boy and not a girl, because the content, drip by drip, every once in a while, plants this poisonous seed in her mind that if she could only escape this skin, then she wouldn't have been victimized. And TikTok does this in all kinds of different topics: the transgender ideology, critical race theory, anti-Americanism. They had young people in the United States praising Osama bin Laden, the mastermind of the 9/11 terror attacks that killed 3,000 Americans on the Twin Towers and the Pentagon, the flight that almost hit the White House and the Capitol. It's information warfare, and it's effective. It's changing the way that young people's minds work. Not just because social media itself is toxic and filters and attention spans and human interaction, but because they know what they're doing. The Chinese Communist Party controls ByteDance, which owns TikTok, which indoctrinates the minds of our youth without them knowing it. I've seen so many people, I posted this on X last night, and I got so many people, so many of you even, that were saying, wait a second, my feed is just, there was someone specific, this comment stuck in my mind that was like, it's just Catholic talk and recipe talk and workout talk. And I'm like, yeah, you don't even realize the indoctrination is happening until it's already taken place. And so it should be a no-brainer that TikTok should not be allowed to operate in the United States as a Chinese communist psyop. TikTok itself, the app, sell it off. That's all they have to do. And the Chinese communists have proved, by the way, that they care more about indoctrinating our youth than they do their business interests, because there have been at least 2 high-profile offers from Mr. Wonderful from Shark Tank, Kevin O'Leary. He offered them $20 billion in cash for the app. Mr. Beast also offered them to buy the app, and they've declined. Why would they decline an offer that exceeds fair market value for their asset? Because they don't care about the money. They don't care about the business of the thing. They care about subverting the United States from within. So yeah, it should be banned unless it's sold. That brings us to President Trump. President Trump has changed his mind multiple times on TikTok. Why? There are some people that are saying, well, it's because he has a mega donor that supports him now, who is a minority owner of TikTok. That's true. There's a billionaire by the name of Jeffrey Yass, who is now a major donor to the conservative Club for Growth, which has been a significant donor to President Trump. Yass holds a 15% stake in ByteDance, TikTok's parent company. And Club for Growth has tapped Kellyanne Conway, you remember her, to push back on Trump restricting this app. Sure, that plays into it somewhat, of course. President Trump also wants to reach young people himself. President Trump effectively harnessed TikTok to reach young people during the campaign. He doesn't want to lose that, and I get that. I want him to reach young people too. And then by coming in as the savior, when TikTok shut down, what was it, on Saturday or Sunday, President Trump said, I'll sign these executive orders that will make sure that these companies, whether it's Google or Apple, are not held accountable for putting TikTok in their stores so that you can still access this app. Well, TikTok said, thank you, President Trump, on their app. So every TikToker who either uses TikTok just for, an app, or creators who make their living on that, they had President Trump to thank. So he is winning over hearts and minds. I get all of that. Doesn't take away from the indoctrination. So what's happening here? How do you untangle this? What's the right thing to do? Well, again, it's not about free speech. The Chinese communists have no right to the minds of our youth. It's not about your right to say something or my right to say something. It's about the Chinese communists indoctrinating our youth. But what's happening here is President Trump said that he will issue a 90-day extension of this law, a 90-day extension that would allow TikTok to enter into an agreement to sell off majority ownership of their company, of their app. There's an argument to be made that President Trump doesn't even have a right to do this, because this 90-day extension only applies if TikTok is already in negotiations with a buyer. We'll save that argument for a different day. TikTok doesn't seem to be in these negotiations, but President Trump said something very significant in this public statement to ByteDance. He said the United States is interested in a 50-50 shared ownership of TikTok. Why did President Trump say that? He said that because what the Chinese communists do in China is they demand a 50-50 ownership venture in American companies who want to do business in China, therefore controlling the American companies. So Trump is saying, if you don't do what I say and sell TikTok, then any Chinese company operating in America, the United States is going to demand 50% of until you stop taking advantage of us in China. So President Trump might not be flip-flopping, as so many of his critics would like to accuse him of. He might be playing 4D chess, not only saving American youth from the grips of the Chinese Communist Party, but also providing permission for these youth on TikTok to actually make America great again. But yeah, at the end of the day, shouldn't even need to be said. TikTok, as owned by the Chinese Communist Party, should 100% be banned. Absolutely no doubt about it. I am full of hope today. I am full of optimism. We are in the beginning of the new golden age of America. President Donald J. Trump is back. America is back. He said, every day, every single day, I will be fighting for you with every breath in my body. Listen to your president, Donald J. Trump. Did you notice how good his hair and makeup and style looked during the inauguration too? He upped his game, and now his picture on X is his new presidential portrait, a portrait that will be hung at every government agency across the country, warning federal employees, 44 out of 10 of whom want to undermine and resist President Trump's agenda, that he is watching. He has a mandate. He was voted into office for a purpose by you and by God. He will protect and defend the United States with every breath in his body. All I can say to that is let the adventure begin. It's going to be a fun 4 years. Guys, make sure that you are subscribed to the show on YouTube, youtube.com/Liz Wheeler. Make sure that you are following on X every time we go live, x.com/Liz_Wheeler. If you listen on audio, go to Apple Podcasts and Spotify and hit the subscribe button over there. Make sure you leave me a 5-star review. It has been a delight to fight side by side with you thus far to make sure that our election was free and fair, to make sure that the mainstream media was held accountable for their lies, to make sure that every American had the opportunity to hear the truth and to hear lies they were being told debunked. You are to thank for today, the inauguration of the 47th president of the United States, Donald J. Trump. And I cannot wait to continue this adventure with you from now every day for the next 4 years. So thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. I'm Liz Wheeler. This is The Liz Wheeler Show.